I'm going to show you 4 different kinds of downward dog, and it's dependent actually upon your flexibility, in the mobility in your hips and lower back, and on your shoulders. So come onto all fours, and I'll actually get you to use this block again. So you can place that between your inner thighs. And on all fours, have your shoulders directly above your wrists. And if you have your knees, instead of directly below your hips, the knees, as Nora is showing, a little bit behind your hips, that'll be a good distance from the hands to the feet for downward facing dog. Now, the variation I want to show you today, I call power dog, because the knees are bent and you're more forward, and it's very powerful. It's like you could jump, you could do anything, you could go anywhere. It's not just this kind of stretching and hanging out. It has a very different quality. So just breathe, and as you breathe, lengthen the sides of your body. And then with your inner thighs, move the block back. This increases the curve going in of the lower back. Press the hands down and inhale to broaden the space between the shoulder blades. So this keeps the fullness of the thoracic spine, not collapsing. So we're not collapsing in the upper back. And then sometimes you have to play a little with the head. You could take the chin down a little, and you'd notice how the back of the neck flattens. Now, I like to call this handy neck or mobile phone neck. Yeah, it's when it's too forward. We do this all day when we look at our phones, so it's quite therapeutic for the neck to keep the throat open. And gentle curve in the neck here. So keeping these 3 curves, now lift your knees about this high off the floor, so maybe 20, 30 centimeters off the floor. And then find your 3 curves again. Lower back moving in, upper back remains full. The throat is open, and yet there are no wrinkles in the back of the neck. And breathe. From here, you can lengthen the sides of your body even more. And that's the feeling of the upper arm bones moving forward while you take your hips up and back. And breathe. There you go. So this I like to call power dog. It's very therapeutic for people who are actually a little too stiff to do good alignment in their spines in the classical traditional downward facing dog. Exhale, bend your knees, and come back to sit and rest. Good. So the next variation of downward dog is actually just more like the classic form of down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, but the knees are bent. So as soon as you bend your knees, you've got a lot more options of how you can organize your pelvis and lower back. Oftentimes people straighten their knees straight away, and then they're kind of locked into a position. Often the lower back is not really optimally aligned, but it's very hard to change it once your knees are straight. So we're going to continue working with the block, and it's really worthwhile doing that. If you don't have one yet at home, make sure you order one, buy one somewhere. It's very helpful. So coming onto all fours, and you can place the block, yes. Good. And as always, you set a good foundation. We've talked about the foundation of the hands in part 1. And you breathe, connect to the breath. Connect to this flow of life force as it flows through you and with you. And that will make you sensitive and also very able to sense and be aware of what's going on in your body, all these subtle little changes and adjustments we're making for the spine. With your inner thighs, move the block back. Notice how the curve in the lower back increases. Press the hands down and come into the power dog, so your knees are maybe 20, 30 centimeters off the ground. And important to remember here in power dog is that you don't just open the armpits. So I'll show you what you shouldn't do. That's this one, sort of open the armpits and press them to the floor. Instead, in your power dog, keep the arms forward, forearms moving forward as the hips move back. Good. Now that you've got this alignment in your spine, the 3 curves, you do your best to keep it. So you've got to keep moving your arm bones forward. I'm going to hold Nora's arms to help her. And then you take your hips up and back even more. The knees are still bent. And now we're going more towards a traditional down dog form. I'm going to let you go, Nora. And here you can just have, there you go, no wrinkles in the neck. With the knees bent, keep the armpits lifted. Don't drop down in the shoulders as deeply as you could. Instead, remain strong. And with your inner thighs, move the block back to move your lower back more in. Oftentimes you'll want to drop the shoulders immediately. So stay strong in your shoulders, lower back moving in. There you go. Deep breath. Nora, you could bend the knees a little bit more. There you go. Bend the knees a little more. Excellent. And take the block back. Perfect. This is the second version of down dog. Basically just an Adho Mukha Svanasana with the knees.